Brought to you by Renegade River.
Welcome to the Mike Hewitt Show. My name is Mike Hewitt, and today in the studio with me is Angela Rigas, who is a candidate for state representative in the 86th District of Michigan. And Angela is challenging a sitting Republican incumbent in the primary. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mike, and good afternoon to our listeners.
Very nice. Hey, I got some easy questions just to get the show going.
Okay.
Tell me, first off, the obvious question. Why, you're a Republican, right?
Yes, I am.
Why are you challenging a Republican in a primary?
I am challenging Lisa in the primary because I, along with a lot of other folks in the 86th district, do not agree with her voting record.
Okay, so some specifics or?
The Medicaid expansion, for one.
Explosion.
Yeah.
I
call it poverty expansion.
Yeah, oh yeah, it does do that.
Yes.
And healthcare cost explosion and.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And Common Core.
Okay, you don't like Common Core?
I do not like Common Core.
Tell me the worst part about Common Core.
The Common Core, personally, I feel the worst part of it is the federal takeover of our education system.
But they kept telling me show after show after show that it was a state by state program and not a federal thing. So how is it a federal thing?
Because they're getting dollars.
So follow the money?
They're indoctrinating our children.
Tell me a little bit about you. What's your background? Married, kids? What do you do for a living? Those kind of things.
I am a self-employed hairstylist. I've been
Okay.
doing hair for about 17 years now. And I'm married and we have 3 children.
How old?
They're all boys,
Okay.
4, 8, and 10.
4, 8, and 10. I got to stop whenever I get to younger kids like that. 3rd grade. How old is a person in 3rd grade?
My 3rd grader is 8.
So you have one in 3rd grade.
I do.
Can he read?
He is at almost a 5th grade reading level right now.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that question is I live in the 89th district. Mm-hmm. You're probably familiar with the bill that Amanda Price floated and continues to float that advocates that there be a mandate that says children in 3rd grade read at a certain level or they be held back. Mm-hmm. What's your feeling on that? And by the way, I'm asking you not to beat up on Amanda or to compliment her, but just to try to get your feeling on education, parenting, and teaching.
Well, I don't think that it's really their job to govern if our children get held back. I think that's something that the individual school has to discuss with the parent.
Okay.
I don't think it should be like a law.
I had I agree with you. Let's do this if I might, and I get a little feel for your background. Let's play speaking about 3rd grade, let's play a real 3rd gradish kind of game if we can. I want to say some words and you tell me just a little quip about what those words mean to you. Does that make sense?
Sure.
First on my list, and by the way, this one is kind of cheating because somebody on Facebook demanded I bring this up. So tell me about limited government.
Limited government. Well, the government we're living under, and I say under because they are definitely dictating everything to us right now. I am not a fan of this government that we have. I feel that they are reaching way too far.
Give me an example of what they do to reach too far.
Well, the Common Core, the Obamacare. The Obamacare is huge. If I didn't want to buy health insurance, that's my own business. I don't feel that they should have any sort of say in what I do personally.
You're talking about healthcare personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw on Facebook, I think it was Facebook, somewhere you had a banner that read these 3 words: limited government, free markets, individual liberty. So so in playing my game I was talking about you, the very next on my list is free markets. What's that mean to you?
That we should be able to open business, have business, we should be able to do whatever we wish without all the government regulations.
I think they've got it down now between state and federal to where you almost have to apply for a fee generating license to whether you can open or shut a door. I mean daily.
Yeah.
not just an initial. It's gotten a little bit, not a little bit. It's gotten a lot out of control. What is the term? Individual liberty is a really broad one. And by the way, let me give you a little disclosure here. And anyone that's listened to the show probably has heard me say this too much, but I tend to be a Jeffersonian. My closest political cousin is probably considered very conservative, but I'm a Jeffersonian when I approach different topics. So in a little while we'll get to gay marriage, and I'm not necessarily on the same page with most of the Christian conservatives on that, although I'm a Christian, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I wanted to tell you that in case you wonder, where's he coming from on some of these issues? So individual liberty to you is that personal responsibility also? Is that kind of what it is? Or okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned Common Core, but doing my same word game, if I say Common Core, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Socialist education.
Okay. Give me an example of how Common Core is socialistic.
It's the government dictating to our schools how our children have to be taught,
Okay.
what the standards are coming from the government instead of on an individual basis.
This show used to be called the Renegade River Show.
Yeah.
And Renegade River is a sports store that I own in Spring Lake, and that's a gun shop. So when I get into Common Core and I look and I read their translation of the Second Amendment, it scares the heck out of me for our republic. It really does, and that's not me being a gun advocate in that sense. That's me being a constitutionalist. And I think we've traveled a long way, by the way, on that note. When I call for fiscal responsibility in a constitutionally governed government, people say, you're an extremist. So wait a minute. I just wanted them to follow the Constitution and be fiscally conservative, fiscally responsible, not even conservative. At least tell me where you're going to get the money from and actually where it's going.
Right.
Am I in the wrong path with that?
No.
Yeah, anyway, that's how I see it. On the same thought, when we're running down the list of this name game association, I say Tea Party. What is that? What is that? The first words that come to mind for you to describe that?
Enlightening.
Okay. A lot of folks seem to think that the Tea Party is restrictive. It is a whole bunch of very, very heavy words, and you're saying enlightening, which may be the opposite of what mainstream media would want me to paint it as. Oscar's got a big smile on his face, folks.
I don't think mainstream media has ever really been to a Tea Party meeting, so I don't think they really could even talk about that.
Yeah, no. When I refer to myself as a Jeffersonian, I'm a classical liberal. So when I talk to a person that identifies themselves as a liberal, that would think that the Tea Party is very restrictive, I think, no, it's the opposite. Honest, it really is.
Yeah, it's more of a liberating experience to go to a Tea Party meeting.
It truly is, but we've changed in our society the definition of all of these words so much that it's really profound. For me, it reminds me of the and it sounds a little bit cliche, but the book 1984, or even more so, what was it, Animal Farm, where all the words were upside down and meant opposite of what they actually did. And that's kind of where we're at least in my book. How about the term Republican Party? What vision does that conjure for you?
Right now, it's a disaster,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. The lines are so blurred right now between the Democrats and the Republicans.
A little bit. I had Gene Clem on, and we kind of touched on this. What do you call himself? I can't remember. He had a term for himself about how he was a certain kind of Republican. It means he didn't have a choice but to be a Republican. I can't remember the exact word, but it was really classic. But one of the good things about what's going on in the Republican Party right now, in my view, is that anytime you have debate, even if it has to be heated or it will end up bringing greater definition. I think without this debate that's going on, and we're going to talk about primaries in a little while, but without primaries, without the Republican Party, at least in Michigan, being challenged on a county, district, and state level, without that, I think the Republican Party would be the next Whig Party, meaning yesterday's news, gone, history. I think it needs this definition that it's going to end up, whatever it is, it's a health thing. But I'll also tell you that I think it's good for America that we're going through this right now, These are some defining moments. In fact, when we talk about primaries later on, it's not a question of when we're disagreeing with incumbents. I said to Gene last week, we're not arguing how many angles are on a stop sign. These are generational changing decisions that they're making. And that's scary. If people aren't paying attention, they got to pay attention.
Yes.
I'm not being an alarmist. These things they're not even subtle anymore. They're like car wrecking, crisis level, generation changing decisions. Where a third of our Republican Party, at least in Michigan, is joining with the Democrats. And by the way, there's a handful of Democrats that are being forced to join with their caucus, where even they recognize these are some mistakes we're making in Lansing.
It's an
and
emergency.
also in DC. You've touched on healthcare a little bit, but I just say the word healthcare. What do you think?
Right now, just expensive premiums.
Yeah. Whenever I think of healthcare, I think of the $9 Motrin tablets and $6 cotton balls for an overnight stay.
Yeah.
Where are you on part-time legislature? That's going to be a big bell ringer during this election cycle. Are you in favor or are you against?
I'm completely in favor of it. Actually, I've gotten hundreds of signatures for the petitions, and I'm for it because I think we definitely need to take the legislators out of Lansing part-time, get them in their districts.
Okay.
Right now, we don't even know where they're at. We don't see them. We don't talk to them. If they don't know where we stand on issues, how can they really even vote?
I agree with that, but I will tell you this. First off, I just be pre-disclosed, I am in favor of part-time legislature, okay? Having said that, and in their defense, if you go to a typical district meeting, it doesn't matter whether it's Amanda Price or Arlen Meekoff as a senator in my district or in most of the districts across Michigan, and I have to assume across the United States. If you go to a typical district meeting, like for instance, Amanda has, I think it's 3 in the 89th district per month. It's more than 2. It's either 3 or 4. But when you go there, it's usually the same 2 or 3 or 4 people, period. And I say that because they are spending some time in the district reaching out. But the electorate, that's us citizens, us voters, by the way, we're not reaching back. We're staying very disengaged as a society. And I think that's part of the absence that's happening in our political climate. Whereas the average electorate, it finds it far more fascinating to watch NFL football or American Idol or whatever the latest fad is that's going through, rather than what's going on in our society and in Lansing. It reminds me of the old quote: if you're not interested in politics, just wait, because politics will take an interest in you.
Yeah.
Business tax. What's your thinking on that term?
Business tax?
Yeah.
I am a self-employed person.
Okay.
And I do obviously pay business tax, but I just work for myself. So I don't have employees that I would have to pay taxes on.
So you're not paying co-share, and I those folks that are not in business, that are not aware of what businesses pay, it's really easy to get into the class envy thing. You're a business owner, therefore you're rich, therefore you should pay. That seems to be the mantra of progressives. And I say that not just identifying the Democrat Party, but the Democrat Party and a third of the Republican Party are progressives by my definition. Okay, meaning those folks that would call for taxation solely and only based on class warfare, which is designed to gin up votes and not gin up any, success in those words don't seem to enter the paradigm. It's all about, can I make people angry enough to vote for me, which to me is the wrong thing. But the fascinating thing about business tax, regardless of where your thinking is on the topic, I say that to the listeners in general, is that businesses don't pay tax. If I had 100% tax and could somehow stay in business, clearly that's not a possibility, but let's just say I could stay in business and I had 100% tax. I'm not the guy that pays the tax. The people that do business with me are. The tax is built in the prices of goods and services. And so folks that clamor saying with excitement, yes, make those rotten, mean corporations pay tax, and then they turn around and whether it's direct or indirect, do business with that business, are unwittingly paying the tax that they demanded without any regard for where the monies are being spent, which to me is the greater issue here. When I look at it, the two big arguments that seem to go by is, are we taxing not enough or too much? And do we have constraint, or is there any need to have constraint on how money is being spent? So let's kind of move from taxation to how should Lansing be spending our money? Is there some overall kind of logic that you bring to what monies you'd spend if you were elected?
I think everyone spends too much right now. It's just with the education. I had read something that they pay like $16,000 per student. Why?
I gotta tell you,
those are failing schools. I mean, how do they fail with that? Like, that needs to be refigured.
We have, and I've said a lot on here, the two things that government promised to help us with the most are education and health care. Mm-hmm. Both of them have enjoyed cost increases since 1980 in excess of 800%. Yeah. And you go, wait a minute, truly, you've helped us to the point where education and health care have went up at a factor of 5 over the income increase since 1980. And we've got more than half of the the folks that are serving in Lansing and in D.C. that don't seem to have the ability to look at that math, and rather say we don't have enough money, we need more. I find that alarming. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's out of control.
Yeah.
It's out of control at state and federal level.
We're going to go to a break in just a minute, but when we do, I'm going to want to get your thoughts, Juicing, on this. I want to talk about the state of the American family and the state of faith in America. Okay? And with that, folks, we will be right back.
This is News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
I made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewitt. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
Hi, if you ever find yourself arrested, in jail, and got bail, make sure you call me, Tommy D, at Bad Boys Bail Bonds, 866-728-6400. Because if I can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a fugitive recovery agent? And you're not certified, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do or what to expect? Log on to National Academy of Bail Enforcement.com and apply today. Classes are forming soon in Michigan. Tell them Tommy D sent you.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show. I am Mike Hewitt, and today we are in with Angela Rigas, who is a candidate in the 86th District. Angela, where is the 86th District?
Cascade, Caledonia, Alto, Lowell, a little bit of Ionia County, and up through Belding.
So we're talking west of GR,
Yes.
east of GR.
Southeast.
Southeast.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your opinion of the state of faith in America? Where do you think we're at right now in terms of faith? I ask it, and let me couch it a little bit. 100 years ago, I think probably we were a pretty devout country, leaning pretty primarily towards the Christian faith. Mm-hmm. When I look around now, I'm not asking it rhetorically, I'm a little bit confused. So tell me, where do you think we're at?
I think we're at a point where many folks have turned away from God, and a lot of people are very offended if you are a believer in God, and that's a really sad time for us. I don't judge the other faiths. However, I'm really saddened by how many people are offended by us being Christians.
Me being a Jeffersonian, by the way, I'm a Christian, but me being a Jeffersonian is kind of fascinating because the atheists will draw on this quote that I'm getting ready to draw on as a Christian. Mm-hmm. Okay. In fact, I always misquote it, so let me just paraphrase it. But it neither picks my my pockets nor skins my knees if you say there's one God or 20. And the point is what his point was not to say he's not a Christian, not to say that he is or any other faith, but rather to say in this country, it shouldn't matter. We can move on and say, okay, great, you and I don't agree on that topic. Let's move on to the next one. And beyond that, I'm secure enough in my faith that it doesn't matter to me what the people I'm passing on the street are. You know, I recently wrote, the intolerance of the tolerance-demanding left has risen to the level of totalitarianism. And what I mean to say is we're seeing people almost daily now who have had stated an opinion, and they're being forced to recant it, they're being terminated, they're being absolutely ostracized or destroyed in the media. I think that's kind of fearsome. But I don't know that it actually eroded faith. And, you know, when I go around and talk to people, they still define themselves as having faith. Do you define yourself as a Christian, or?
I do.
You
I
are?
do.
That's how you're raising your kids.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. And I wasn't raised a Christian,
Okay.
by the way.
Okay.
Growing up, we did not have faith. I wouldn't say we were atheists, but we did not have faith.
Now,
And
do you
actually-
describe yourself as hard right wing right now?
I don't know. I'm just a conservative.
Okay.
I mean, I don't like the hard right. A lot of people think that's radical.
Yep.
That's pretty sad. But I'm a right winger, but I'm not radical.
But you started out as a liberal.
I did.
How did you make that
I did.
that transition?
Well, growing up in the small town south of Grand Rapids called Hastings, we didn't have faith in my house. We didn't know. And my dad was a factory worker, and my parents were divorced when I was 13 years old. And went through a lot of tough years. And, of course, you know, the rebellious teenage years. And I didn't have faith in God, and I was kind of lost.
When you say you didn't have faith, would you have referred to yourself as an atheist or just ignorant to the topic?
Ignorant to the topic, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I did want to believe, but I just didn't. I hadn't accepted him into my heart at that time. I was troubled. I was really troubled.
And now you would identify yourself as a saved Christian.
Definitely.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the problems that it just goes down to the breakdown of family. That's exactly what that was about.
I have said a lot on this show that I'm not convinced anything that we do in the political arena, financial, military, anything. I don't think any of it will change the course of America unless we can save the American family. And I really genuinely believe that itself has lost its definition, along with, and by the way, the Democrats, when we hear about the Republican primary challengers like you and Republicanism has lost its definition, the Democrats are going through the same thing. So this is an American issue, not a political party issue. But one of the foundational reasons that's come to pass is the American family itself. Like your own family my family was divorced. I've been divorced. Everywhere you go, when you go to school and look at the numbers of young children that are from single parent families that may or may not have ever even had a marriage involved, those things they're ground shaking. They're generational shaking. And when we look at these statistics for criminal behavior, for depression, for suicide, most of those are the result of, or at least in lion's share, are aiming towards single parent problems that exist. How do we get our hands around that? If you could steer America on the family thing, what would you do next? What would you like to see?
I would like to see more faith in God, ultimately, because we had just talked about that it seems like there's been a breakdown of that.
Okay, so you're telling me maybe, I want to make sure I'm adding it up. Are you saying that if there was more of a faith in God, that the family itself would be stronger?
There would be more hope for the future for the family.
Okay. Yeah.
Without faith, you have nothing.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I think even on that point, I think the human nature is to have faith in something.
Yeah.
And I've argued with atheists, but even atheists, their atheism is a faith. Now, they get mad at me when I say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
If you write down the things that they believe and the reasons that they believe it, I can't document it any more than I can document the faith that I have. It's something you have. I mean, by definition, it is faith. Therefore, it's a religion, because they do have a doctrine that goes with that faith that they have. What's the general state of America right now?
Well, obviously, I think we're in trouble,
Okay.
especially under Obama. I don't agree with anything that he's done, and the states could stand tough and fight, and I don't see any fight going on here.
Michigan, last I saw, ranks 36th in the union in terms of wealth. So they look at the average median income and say, on that list from top to bottom, we're 36th. It feels like we're working pretty hard to rank that low on the list. Is there? I know there's not a magic pill that we can all take and suddenly, steer the direction. But when you get to Lansing, what's on your agenda to try to do to change that, to move us up that list? Assuming that's part of your call.
There's so much talk when people run for office. They like to run on, I'm going to help the middle class, and really they've done nothing but harm the middle class.
What middle class?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotten that part's.
Well, you've got an average family working, and I'll use our family as an example. We'd had our medical premiums alone double. Our medical deductible has tripled.
Is that Obamacare?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just money that we're putting elsewhere instead of in our home, in our savings, in our children, in our education for our children, for college.
It's a slippery slope. I got to tell the Jim Riley story. There's nothing I can do about it. If he's listening, he'll be throwing stuff at the radio. Jim Riley sits in on the morning show during the week in the station. He's certainly been on the Renegade River show in the past a number of times. He's a friend of mine. He's 64, isn't he? And he bragged before he went on the air, so I can say this. He bragged before he went on his 5 or 6 week vacation that the premiums he saved by switching from Blue Cross to Obamacare paid for his trip. Okay, skiing trip. When did he go to Colorado, didn't he?
Yeah.
On that particular one?
Yeah.
It was like a 5 or 6 week trip. It was pretty substantial.
Yeah, we didn't miss one bit.
Yeah, and the difference between premiums, literally when he did the math, paid for his trip. But while he was out there, he broke his rib. And of course, the deductible more than outweighed whatever savings he has. But people have to not be short-sighted. They got to sit down with just you don't need a calculator. This is really, really basic math. Yeah. This is not a winning proposition.
No, it is not. It's hurting us.
What do you think about Medicaid in general? Do you have a positive or negative? Do you want to get rid of it or slow it down? What would you do with Medicaid?
Well, I definitely wouldn't have expanded it.
Exploded it.
Yeah, true. Well, with the Medicaid, you're forced into the poverty as far as the doctors. The care is different. And most people that are on Medicaid tend to go to the emergency room instead of wellness checkups or preventative care.
See, now I was told by some state representatives right here on this show that the reason this was such a wonderful thing was that under the current program, I guess Medicaid explosion is in effect now. The way it was before, folks that didn't have insurance were going to the emergency room. And so now that we're providing them with this free insurance that costs everybody else a lot of money, now they won't go to the emergency room, and so therefore it will be more cost effective because we're paying for it anyway. That's what I was told. Now you're saying that folks with Medicaid tend to go to the emergency room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I said at the time. And they went, "Oh no, no, that's not what happened." But it's exactly what happens.
Right.
So
And then you have the employers that would like to make their employees more of a part-time, because that way they wouldn't have to pay the medical insurance on them, and then those people can roll right into the Medicaid.
You know what's fascinating about that, though? If our listeners want to get on the internet, do some Googling, they'll find that since we transformed our economy to a 40-hour work week, the progressive movement has been pushing for a 30-hour work week. And when I say that, I'm talking about several decades. You'll find the International Workers Union and all kinds of different groups that have been literally advocating and advancing to get us down to a 30-hour work week, like France, by the way. And the irony to the Medicaid, to your point in terms of part-time employment, is what they were after. So what we consider to be one of the negative byproducts, they're applauding. They think it's great.
Well, that's because they want us to take up hobbies like oil painting.
That's very
You know,
important.
like Nancy Pelosi said, take up oil painting.
Yes.
You've got the time, but you can't afford the paint if you're not working.
Taxes. Are you a flat taxer? Are you a fair taxer? Or do you like what we're doing? You just want less of it? What's your thinking on that?
I think we pay a lot of taxes personally.
Okay. We pay a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Vastly more than people think. I always get a kick out of it when I see that report. Comes out every year. We'll see it in the next month. It'll say it'll be March or May something, some date. Okay, now from here on out, it's our money because we're done paying our tax. And the irony to that is that it's not true, because when you combine all of the taxes, remember, folks, businesses don't pay tax. When you do business with those businesses, whether it's service or whether it's a purchase of a product, you're paying their tax. So when you get all said and done and the end of the year has gotten here and you look at what you really truly paid, it's in excess of 70%.
It's insane.
And anyone that doesn't agree with me, give me a call and I'll invite you on the show and we can do the math together because it's in excess of 70%. Now, for me, I tend to be a fair taxer. My reason is that I think if people could see what this tax actually is, if they could see how much they're actually paying for government, maybe they'd be a little bit more inclined to say, hey, quit blowing the dough.
Right.
Am I thinking wrong?
No, not at all. No, it's ridiculous. And some of the programs and stuff that they pay for, it's insane.
You've heard all of the gold commercials that are on Fox News. It'll say, the economy's in trouble and we're spending a lot of, and we're buy gold because it's the only. Lately, I've been listening to progressive radio. By the way, that's where my hair went. Okay, and so I'm listening to progressive radio, and they run essentially the same ad, only they flip the words around and it's aimed at progressives. And it says, we can't tax cut or spend cut our way into prosperity. So they say the exact same verbiage and they flip it around. And I'm asking you that because do you think there's anything to the progressive argument that when they look at government spending money, they see it as an investment that spurs growth? What do you think about that argument?
That's so backwards. I can't even.
It just kind of, I've not been able to get my head around it. But
yeah, that's very backwards. But the whole thinking is backwards.
Well, it's very, very different. In fact, this morning, doing some show prep for this, I was reading an article from, I think it was University of Nebraska, where they're working on a machine that detects liberal and conservative, meaning the professors that are working on the study believe that there's literally a biological or a physical difference in how your brain operates and how it perceives things that causes you or leans you towards one or another. In fact, the study that I was reading went on to say that a person who is young may be a liberal, but the reason isn't that they matured, is that as your brain goes through puberty, et cetera, from say 12 to 25, there's chemical changes that take place. And so you may be at 18 thinking you're a liberal, and when you get to 25, it's not because you learn new information, it's because that's where your brain aligns with on a chemical level when you get to the other side. And I read that, and I thought, we need that machine so we can find out whether Republicans are telling us the truth when they're running for office.
It's all who has common sense or not.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you say that, because that's really where I was going with this. To me, it's about common sense.
It is.
It's not about fancy math or ideology. If I have $12 and I promise 20 people $12 each, I've lied to a bunch of people. It's just math. There's a bunch of women running for office. I thought there was a war on women. I'm a little bit confused by that.
That was started by the women, I guess.
The war on women?
Yeah, they started it themselves.
Everywhere I go, all of the Democrats that are running for office from Obama in the 2000, and it worked for him, by the way, identifying a war, and evidently Jeffersonians and conservatives are doing our best to keep you folks, I say you folks, females, away from We're denying you access to birth control. We're denying you the minimum wage. I just saw a recent argument now is not directed at society in general, but the call for an increased minimum wage now is now aimed at females. Does it make any sense to you?
I think it's insulting, the whole idea of the war on women.
Yeah.
If we would like birth control, we should be able to go get birth control.
You're suggesting I think the problem is, and we're going to have to go to a break, but I think the problem is that, first off, it's a political ploy on their part.
Sure.
But the real definition is can you go get birth control or can you go get free birth control? And with that, folks, we're going to
It's
go
not
to
free.
Nothing's free.
Exactly.
Holy moly. We're going to go to a break and we're going to pick up on that in just a minute.
You're listening to News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Hi, if you ever find yourself arrested in jail and got bail, make sure you call me, Tommy D, at Bad Boys Bail Bonds, 866-728-6400. Because if I can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a fugitive recovery agent? And you're not certified, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do or what to expect? Log on to National Academy of Bail Enforcement.com and apply today. Classes are forming soon in Michigan. Tell them Tommy D sent you.
I made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewitt. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show. I am Mike Hewitt, and today my guest is Angela Rigas, who is a candidate in the 86th District. When we left off, we were talking about the war on women. Do you feel like you've been beaten up as a woman?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. The war on women seems to have been made up by women that want to be the victims.
See, I got to tell you, when I looked at it, and you're probably right, but when I looked at it as a 2012 presidential thing that worked really, really good for the Obama. And now you'll see some federal level candidates that are realizing that they're really in big trouble over Obamacare, frankly. And so
Sure.
they're trying to pivot and change the topic again, or continue on with the Obama's success on this war on women.
Sure.
Which I find fascinating, because when as a talk show host and a political consultant and other things that I do in my life off the air, I see there's a lot of women in Michigan running for office, by the way, on both sides of the aisle. And it looks like it's pretty darned equal. And so I'm thinking, how can all of these, none of them that I'm seeing look like they've been put upon terribly?
No.
Now, I'm a fellow, so I'm not seeing this maybe like, I'm sure there's a bunch of progressives yelling at the radio right now, but I don't get it. So
I just don't understand it either, personally.
I understand why they're calling for it, but I don't understand why people are believing it.
No, yeah, that.
I mean, it's the free contraceptives, or the access to your contraceptives have been cut off, and all kinds of things that to me
it's
are
lies.
They really are just lies. I've got two last topics that I want to talk about. The first one's a real brief one, and it may make you roll your eyes. I wrote a book, and I'm writing the sequel to it. Okay, the first book was America's Final Beginning, and the sequel I'm writing right now is The Third Founding of America. And the reason I'm bringing that up now in the middle of this interview is that what I'm doing with this book is I'm trying to write, if we had to start over again right now with our technology and where we're at, in the first book, America fell apart. And so now we're going to rebuild it. What would you do different? Is there any single one thing that you can point to that should have been, that isn't now, something that maybe the founders had advanced and we've left it behind, that kind of thing?
I think that we should have just left alone to begin with and
Okay.
just stayed with what they
Stayed
had.
with what they set up? Okay. Things like, to me, like I'm looking at how we vote for a U.S. senator. They set it up to be the House of Representatives in each state. That advanced who that state was going to elect, and now we've made it a democratic vote. I look at those things. I ask you because kind of tongue in cheek, because I'm looking for ideas as I write that book, and that's it's a tough one to say. You know, if you wiped it all out and started again, what would you do? It's not as easy as when I just say the words. It's kind of a quip. But the other thing I wanted to really get into is when you look at what are you campaigning on? What are you telling people when you're out? If right now we were sitting at some Tea Party meeting somewhere and you were describing your candidacy to me, what would you be telling me, Angela?
Well, you should vote for me because I'm a normal person. I'm a normal mom, wife, entrepreneur. I don't come from a dynasty family with politics.
So it's not Angela Bush. It's
No,
not.
it's not Angela
Angela
Bush.
Clinton.
Nope. Nope. Just Rigas. That's all. Just Rigas. But I'm a simple mom, and I have simple values.
Yeah.
And I don't appreciate the government dictating to us what we can and cannot do with our children, with our health care. It's wrong. It's wrong what they're doing. They're taking our liberties away. They're
Right.
taking our freedoms away. And half of America is not paying attention. And the other half doesn't seem to care that it's happening.
It is fascinating, but it does go to the difference between the two mindsets that I teased about with the machine that can detect a liberal or a conservative. Things like the TSA. I'm, as a Jeffersonian, by the way, I'm about as against the TSA as you can possibly get. The idea that I can't walk my daughter to an airplane flight when she leaves. The idea that we won the war on terrorism, but we've turned all of our transportation into your papers, please, like it's right out of Nazi Germany. And we didn't win anything as long as we've surrendered our freedom
Right.
to keep our supposed security.
Right.
And the difference in mindset is that there are a lot of people that are on the Democrat side and, frankly, that are on our side that don't agree with you and I on this topic.
Sure.
They think these are necessary evils, and I say there's no such thing as a necessary evil. If it's evil, it's evil.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Right.
And to me, there's nothing against the people that are TSA people. They're just people that got a job. But the idea that the political correctness, I'm going to ask you for your review, so get ready. But if you've got a 75 or an 80-year-old nun going through and they have to feel her up, but they can't touch someone from the Middle East because it would be politically incorrect. Yeah. Folks, listen, I'm not a racist, but I think that's insane. I absolutely do. It just defies the history of how we got to this point.
Right.
If we're going to do it at all, I think we ought to at least apply some common sense. The other side of it hasn't stopped a terrorist yet. There's not one example of success.
Well, with common sense here, you don't want to offend anyone, and everyone's offended in this day and age.
So some folks are offended if they can't have free contraceptives.
Yes.
Some folks are offended because I'm male and they're female, because there's no other defining difference.
And if you have faith,
Yep.
that will offend people for sure.
Yeah, it goes back to the people that are demanding tolerance are truly, and I say totalitarian, but they're really kind of fascist because they're forcing their view, which is why I often say that socialism is the politics of force. I'm going to force you to do Obamacare. You can't opt out. I'm going to force you, like the third grade reading thing. To me, I think that's a relationship between a student and a parent. It has nothing to do with anybody in Lansing, and the idea that it does to me is outrageous. So if you get there, what's going to be your what's your top 3 priorities? So you just got sworn in, and now it's your first day, and all the hoopla is done, and you're sitting in your office looking over Main Street. You ever been up in one of those offices?
No.
Oh, they're a fascinating place. You're literally sitting in an office, and you're looking out a big picture window over a road that goes below you. So you're sitting there at your desk. What's your first three things on your agenda?
My first thing is Common Core.
Okay, to get rid of it?
Yeah.
Voted out of Michigan?
Voted out of Michigan.
Okay, second thing?
The Medicaid expansion. What people are confused with this medical coverage is access to health insurance is not the same as access to health care.
Okay.
Health care is where we've had our issues, not health insurance.
Okay. Third thing.
The third thing would be spending.
Okay, you want to cut some
There's
spending? You want to increase
so
spending?
much. Yeah, that's why I had to pause. I had to pause there because there's so many things that we don't agree with right now.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
too much spending. I mean, you need to live on a budget, folks. We live on a budget. I live on a budget.
To me, when I look at the math of it, last I saw was a 60 billion plus state budget, and for a little over 9 million people. And I do the math. I'm going, I'm not getting that level of service. Where's that dough? First off, where's it coming from? And I know it's coming from the feds in large part because we trade state sovereignty for federal funding. I think those are just critical errors on our part. Speaking of that, where are you on states' rights?
States' rights.
Yeah,
We are separate from the federal government.
right. When I read the founders and try to interpret to me it looked like we were separate but equal, not the same, and certainly not separate but subservient.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it. One of the things I was flabbergasted with talking about the Medicaid explosion. First off, Medicaid explosion, folks, is Obamacare.
Right.
These are not separate issues. You cannot have Obamacare in the state of Michigan if you did not have the Medicaid explosion. So a third of our state legislation, a third of our Republican-led state legislators voted for Obamacare. Those are important factors, in that people like you hopefully will change it.
Well, they had the opportunity to stand up to it then. I don't understand why they didn't.
You know what got me is it seems like I think everyone agreed that going to a hospital and paying $9 for a Motrin tablet on average cost for an overnight stay is insane. But it seems to me that we asked the wrong question. Rather than saying, how can we pay for this? As a society and as leadership in Lansing, people should have been saying, why are we thinking about trying to figure out how to pay for a $9 Motrin tablet? That to me is an insane question. Am I thinking wrong again?
No.
I mean, I go $6 for a single cotton ball. No kidding.
Yeah.
$90,000 for a 6-day stay. Those things are over the top.
Right.
In my mind. 800% increase in education for higher education.
Yeah.
What would you do instead of Common Core, by the way?
I would give it back to the schools.
Okay.
Give it back to the schools.
School boards, and is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's their job. It's the parents' job to educate the children.
We got a couple minutes left.
Okay.
Let me put you on the spot. You ready?
Sure.
I'm teasing you a little bit. How can folks find you?
I'm on Facebook. Angela Rigas for state representative.
Okay.
It was Angela/86
Okay.
on Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have a website up yet. We've really been only into this for about a week and a half now.
Yeah.
Since I decided to go for this. And
I gotta
I've
stop
been-
you. I gotta stop you there because you make me smile. You've only been at this for a little over a week.
yeah,
I of course I've had a number of candidates on my show, but typically I don't. I had one announce on my show, but but I've been watching most of the folks that have been in it for a while. So in a little over a week, you've garnered some significant support.
yes,
And what's mind-boggling is that it's kind of opposite from what one would expect for a primary challenger.
sure.
We've only got about a minute left, but what's the secret to that success, Angela?
Taking on the establishment and not being afraid to stand up for
Yeah.
what you believe in.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I am nervous on your show today. I've never done radio in my life.
It's
and-
almost over with. Was it really
I
that
know.
bad?
Whew.
It wasn't that bad, was it?
But over this past week, I have been stopped by I've received calls. I've been stopped on the street, the grocery store, at work, by over 500 people, just thanking me for standing up, and I really appreciate that. I've been overwhelmed with support.
Are you going to go door knocking?
I am going to go door knocking, yes. I would like to meet everyone that I can and talk to everybody that I can, because we all have the same concerns. We all have the same goals. We're all raising families.
Yeah.
We all want our kids to have a quality education.
Angela, I hear music, so that tells me I'm out of time. But listen, somewhere in the next month or so, within the next couple months, I want to get you back on and find out how you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next week.
Brought to you by Renegade River.
I've made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewitt. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
Hi, if you ever find yourself arrested, in jail, and got bail, make sure you call me, Tommy D, at Bad Boys Bail Bonds, 866-728-6400. Because if I can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a fugitive recovery agent? And you're not certified, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do or what to expect? Log on to National Academy of Bail Enforcement.com and apply today. Classes are forming soon in Michigan. Tell them Tommy D sent you.